Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to the IndieZone. My name is Kathy. It has been more than 2.5 years since what has been described as completely mind-numbing, catastrophic events occurred at 1122 King Road on November 13th, 2022, when, according to the prosecution in this case, in a matter of minutes, 4 young students were lost in a rental home that once stood just steps away from the university all 4 were attending in order to improve themselves and in looking forward to a bright future. Unfortunately, those goals became impossible when Madison, Kaylee, Xana, and Ethan were forever lost more than 2.5 years ago. On December 30th, 2022, the sole person who has ever been arrested in connection with the catastrophic events at 1122 King, Brian C. Kohberger, was so arrested. In May of 2023, he was charged by operation of an indictment with the 5 felonies that he will stand trial for. And what will happen in 60 days is the process of the selection of the 12 jurors and 8 alternates who will serve as the trier of fact and make the ultimate determination of whether Mr. Kohberger is guilty or not guilty. He is at all times relevant, considered not guilty under the eyes of the law until or unless one of 2 things happens: either that future jury adjudicates him guilty or he pleads guilty. This is a capital case. The stakes could not be higher. Justice needs to be served for all involved. At this time, with so much at stake, there still are 3 things that need to happen that we're hopeful, in our opinion, there will be some movement toward, if not today, when the docket is updated and the case summary page is updated, or the early part of next week, when it will be less than 60 days until Voir Dire. The first item is the state of Idaho's response to the defense's motion to continue this trial. That motion was filed 11 days ago, and as of yesterday, when the docket was updated, there was nothing on the public docket in the form of a response and no indication on the case summary page that the state of Idaho had filed a response. There are a number of steps that need to happen before Judge Hippler can rule on that motion, which we went over in an episode of the IndieZone Podcast. If you have not yet had an opportunity to listen to it, I ask that you do, because you'll see that there is much to be done before Judge Hippler can issue that written ruling whether or not to continue the trial to a later date. Secondly, is the status of the investigation into what Judge Hippler found to be a likely violation of the non-dissemination order that allowed evidence, some of which might not even be admissible, to somehow find its way to mainstream media. Judge Hippler found to be possibly the subject of that non-dissemination order. Judge ordered both parties, the state and the defense, to submit certain documentation to him under seal relative to the courts wanting to get to the bottom of this issue, find out who is responsible, and hold that individual to account. Both sides responded May 22nd, 2025. And in fact, a day later, the state submitted something under seal to the court in furtherance of the court order that they produce certain information to Judge Hippler. At this time, the public is unaware of what is going on relative to the same. And the aforementioned motion to continue, argument number 5, went into why Mr. Kohberger's due process privileges call for an adjournment of the trial until such time that the person responsible for this leak is identified. Because just imagine, Judge Hippler stated in his order of May 15th that he believed that this leak likely came from a member of the prosecutorial team or law enforcement. Imagine if the person ultimately responsible is on the witness list for the state, and this trial is not continued, and there's a conviction, and then it turns out that a person who testified was responsible for the leak, but Mr. Kohberger was not able to fully question that individual because at the time of trial, the perpetrator responsible was not yet identified. Do we think possibly that that might be grounds for a reversal and having to start everything all over again in a second trial? Just asking rhetorically. We have no facts whatsoever as to who is responsible for this case being tried in the media rather than in a courtroom, which is what the non-dissemination order required. Documents and evidence should not be going to the media by someone who believes the media should have it. It should have been disseminated through the courts, but wasn't. We're hopeful that the public will hear some more details as to where things stand regarding the investigation into that issue. Third, there's the matter of alternate perpetrators. Mr. Kohberger was court ordered to serve evidence and exhibits, which he did on the 23rd of May, as to alternate perpetrators he's alleging are responsible for the catastrophic events at 11/22 King, not him. The state of Idaho has until the 6th to respond to that offer of proof of additional information, exhibits, and evidence. We're hopeful that that gets filed sooner rather than later, so that if Mr. Kohberger decides to file a reply, he'll be able to do that in time for this June 18th hearing. Because if Mr. Kohberger is successful on being able to introduce this evidence before that jury, could raise reasonable doubt. If he hasn't met his burden of providing evidence of an alternate perpetrator, that, in my opinion, should be something that should be known sooner rather than later so that this trial can commence in a timely manner, which will then be nearly 3 years from the date of the catastrophe at 11/22. In fact, because the trial is anticipated to run through November of 2025, that will be exactly 3 years when Maddie, Kaylee, Xana, and Ethan were lost forever. May they rest in peace. If you have any comments, any feedback, please leave it here. And if you like our content, please be sure to hit the like button. And if you have not already, please subscribe to the channel so that you can receive updates as they are published. As this matter continues toward trial with Voir Dire in 60 days. This is Kathy. Thank you for joining us today.